Welcome to the Components Architecture section. Up until now, we discussed various topics that were required in order to prepare you to the architecture design. We talked about mindset, processes, requirements, quality attributes, and more. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the real thing. In this section, we are going to discuss the architecture of software components. Now, before diving in, it's important to understand what is the meaning of software component in this context. Software component, also sometimes known as service, is a piece of code that runs in a single process, which means it is not distributed. Modern systems are usually distributed, meaning they are composed of independent software components deployed on separate processes and often on separate containers or servers. You have probably heard about microservices application, SOA application, and more. All these systems are distributed systems that have components or services deployed independently and which communicate via some kind of network protocol, usually HTTP. When talking about software architecture, we actually talk about two levels of architecture. The first is the components architecture. This is the architecture of the individual components, and this is the topic of this section. The components architecture deals with the various inner components of the code, the way they interact with each other, and how to make it fast and easy to maintain. The second level is the architecture of the whole system. This kind of architecture deals with the bigger picture and makes sure the system is scalable, reliable, fast, and easy to maintain. We will discuss system architecture later in this course. Now, it's important to note that some of the principles we will discuss in this section are quite low level, and some will say fall under the responsibility of the developer's lead and not the architect. This might be true in some organizations, but nevertheless, I strongly believe the architect should be well aware of them too. As you might recall from earlier sections, the architect should never distance himself from the code, and he should be able to have an intelligent discussion about coding, patterns, and programming as a whole. It is because of this reason that the architect must be at least aware of the inner workings of the individual components and must be able to make sure his design supports the bigger picture of the system. And again, in many, if not most organizations, the architecture of the components is definitely the responsibility of the architect. And in this section, we will discuss exactly that, how to make a great architecture for the code components. So let's go.